Hello, ACEs, and hello, our guest speakers today. Thank you for joining us, Eric, Sumaya, Muketsi, and everyone who's watching now. Before we start our panel, many people don't know about the ACEs of Ventures and our global decentralized entrepreneurship accelerator. Oops. I went live on YouTube and did not mute it. Technical stuff. So I will be representing in a very brief way our global entrepreneurship, global decentralized entrepreneurship accelerator, and then we will start with our panel. So to make it brief, a couple of months ago, Robert, my co-founder, and he has the camera on, and also you will see him in the introduction, came to me and he said, Andre, we don't want to miss the Web3, and we are both entrepreneurs and business owners, and why not create a Web3 NFT project? So based on our experience in business, we know that you don't venture into something that you don't know. So my experience is I've been training and speaking about entrepreneurship for the past 14 years, since 2008, in 53 countries. And all my work is with entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship accelerators, incubators, competitions, and so on. So we came up with the Global Decentralized Entrepreneurship Accelerator. And when we talk about NFTs, you need an artwork. And when we thought about the entrepreneurship journey, you know, the entrepreneur will take risk, the entrepreneur will go all in, the entrepreneur know when to use their cards, how to burn their cards, and so on. And out of the cards lexic, we said, let's do the artwork as playing cards. And when someone wins or someone succeeds in something, we say he's an ace or they aced this. So we called it Aces of Ventures. So we are looking for aces, and we are happy to host aces with us. Our speakers today, they aced their ventures and they aced in their journey. So thank you for joining us again. To say a little bit about the roadmap of our project and how it's working using NFT, we gave utilities to our cards. So anyone who's holding the Jack card will be able to submit a pitch for the community. And those who have the Queen and the King will be voting for the top 5 to pitch every week. And by the way, we believe in women empowerment, and Sumaya also does this. So we gave the utility for the Queen only to ask a question during a pitch. Only the Queen can ask a question during a pitch. And all the community will be voting for the winner. And I'll tell you how we're dealing with the winners in a few minutes. So the co-founders are me and Robert. Robert, by the way, is the serial entrepreneur. He has 6 businesses in his portfolio, and his company is one of the leading companies in Lebanon, competing with L'Oreal on the nail polish products in the local market. In addition, we have a team of great people. If you are here, team, I cannot see all the names, so just write in the chat what's your role. I know we have some moderators and community manager also here. We have around 23 team members. We also have investors and VCs who are on board. What we are doing, we are distributing $1 million to 100 entrepreneurs. We are categorizing entrepreneurs into three categories. The idea entrepreneurs, they get $5,000 when they win. The prototype entrepreneurs, MVP stage, they get $10,000, and the growth stage, they get $40,000. And to add value to our community during the acceleration process, we are bringing 100 speakers from 50 countries. And we are looking for more speakers from Africa. I know Sumaya introduced me to someone next week. We will keep it as a surprise. He will be our guest speaker next week. And during the NFT and roadmap, we have the burning events when people destroy their cards in order to gain some perks or offers or unique deals. For example, they can win an iPhone, they can win a ticket, travel ticket, and so on. Also, if they hold their card, we have holding events. Our sponsors and partners will be giving deals and giveaways to these holding cards. And my best roadmap milestone is when people fuse their cards, their identical cards, they merge to NFT cards, they get more benefits. And one of the benefits, by the way, is access 1,300 airport lounges worldwide, in addition to generating monthly tokens, which will be a token that we are launching during the project. And of course, we are looking for more sponsors and partners to support in this project. One of our sponsors already, Live Forex Exchange, distributed 30 vouchers of $30 to our community who are active in the crypto talk on our Discord. We will put the Discord link again in the chat in a few, and you can also have it from your email because it will be in the follow-up emails later on. That's everything about the Aces of Ventures. Not everything. We have many things hidden in the Discord roadmap, and you can ask about it. But this is a short description. Now I would like to welcome our guests and let them introduce themselves in a brief. As I see you on our screen, and actually I would like to start with Sumaya because she introduced me to both of you. So Sumaya, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Sumaya, apparently super connector here. I'm a coach, I'm a leadership coach and facilitator. And I'm also the founder of Next Evolution and Soul Evolution, two companies doing two different things, but contributing to the next evolution of entrepreneurship and leadership and empowerment. I am very focused, and the work of Next Evolution is very focused in Africa and the Middle East, but not only. We're basically rewriting the story of entrepreneurship and empowerment in the global South. And yeah, that is me. I've collaborated. I'm also part of other initiatives, and Jen and Aksum are part of the partnerships of Next Evolution, and that's how Eric and Muketsi came into meeting Andre and so on. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sumaya. Eric?
Thank you. So my name is Eric Young. I'm CEO and co-founder of Untitled Chapter. I'm originally from Cameroon. Grew up in, I think, like 6 countries in Africa. Made my studies in France and created my first company at 22. So I'm a pure entrepreneur who ended up to lead the first investment companies in Germany that was created 7 years ago. We focus on 2 things. One pillar, which is consulting and advising and implementing program for development agency, and the other pillars, which is investment, where we're focusing on tech-enabled early-stage companies. We also, so with this, we have invested in 40 companies since 2015. We have created Green Tech Capital Africa Foundations in 2019, with what we have, I think, supported more than, I think, 500 entrepreneurs with different ways, and through also collaboration with development agencies. So really passionate about entrepreneurship and in Africa, and very happy to be invited to share today.
Thank you, Eric. Muketsi.
Hey, Andre. Thank you very much for welcoming me here. Greetings to everybody from Botswana. You know, just some geography. Botswana is that small little country next to South Africa. I know everybody knows South Africa and Cape Town. So I look after Botswana's only virtual accelerator that takes the model of Y Combinator Founders Youth. It's called One Africa. We predominantly focus on software as a service startups. We've done pretty much good work in spotlighting some of Botswana's top successful startups. What is exciting for us now is to sort of launch Botswana's first microfund, you know, because the money is not coming fast enough to the startups. So this is the work that is exciting us. We've also been championing Jen, which is where I met Somaya, Andre. and also Eric recently in Saudi Arabia. So we are sort of really embedded in the blueprint of trying to build Botswana's startup ecosystem around tech, around connecting and so on. So happy to be here and happy to support this exciting project.
Thank you, Muketsi. And I also met you in the last Global Entrepreneurship Congress in Saudi Arabia, where Sumaya introduced me to you. I missed meeting Eric, so hopefully we meet again later. I will start with your opportunities and what you are doing for entrepreneurs. Like, I know we are talking about entrepreneurship in Africa, but first I would like to know your initiatives, your ecosystem, what you are doing for your community, what does your entity does for entrepreneurship. We can start with the same sequence. Sumaya, Eric, Muketsi.
I can start. So with Next Evolution, we're working on 3 axes. So there's an axis around leadership development, where we help and accompany leaders and CEOs to step up, level up their game, self-mastery, connection to their purpose and the impact they want to make. The second axis is community building and community development. So we help organizations develop, create, basically build a community strategy around their brand, mainly online communities. So we do a lot of work of like community architecture and then mobilization and implementation. The third axis is ecosystem development, and it's specifically focused on partnership development and building connections. And that's how and why I introduced myself as a super connector, because around Next Evolution are a lot of very impactful leaders on the one hand, and second of all, powerful organizations who are a little bit fragmented, because one of the challenges we are facing in Africa is the fragmentation of the continent. We talk about entrepreneurship in Africa, but it's very difficult to talk about entrepreneurship in Africa as such, because there are 54 countries and we don't communicate as much as we would like to between each other, and the commercial routes are not that open. So it's very fragmented. It's easier to communicate with countries in Europe or in the Middle East than within Africa with each other. So connection and building ecosystems and creating collaboration within the continent or with ecosystems who are going through the same hardship and facing the same difficulties is really crucial at the moment, because building resilience is really about building a powerful network that supports you when there's a crisis, as you went through in Lebanon, or a civil war like we went through in the 90s in Algeria or something, these kind of things. And what we're focusing right now is one of the key programs we're supporting is Hear Me Now with Bloom. So we do partnership building, and we are attracting the entrepreneurs and the community of entrepreneurs, female leaders, because Hear Me Now is a program supporting female entrepreneurs in the MENA region and all over Africa. So we're calling for applications, gonna open in 3 weeks. And I will tell a little bit more about that, but it's in collaboration with Bloom. We're building partnerships, and there's a whole program coming, an acceleration program, and there's also funding coming together. And the sprint of the acceleration program is going to be around, from September to November. So that's what we do.
So Maya, I would ask you, and actually I would ask Munir also, because we are also connected and partners in Lebanon, to share this opportunity with our community. Maybe we come again and talk only about this, the requirements, the opportunity, and so on. So thank you for highlighting that. Thanks, Sumaya. Eric.
Yes. So what do we do? So we do we do many things. So everything that we do is around supporting the African entrepreneurs, because we believe that African entrepreneurship, and especially tech and technology, is like an underrepresented market with underestimated, I would say, founders. So we do that by tackling different aspects. First, by tackling at the level of the entrepreneur himself, by developing and implementing capacity building program or venture building capacity that are made available to entrepreneurs so that they can, from the early stage, develop and have the resources that they may be lacking directly. So that will be from the perspective of the entrepreneurs, and we do that through our, I'll say, advisory branch, consulting branch, and we do that either directly by ourselves or through development agency. So we work with large development agency to help them implement a capacity building program. This is at the level of the entrepreneur. We also intervene at the level of funds because we have a team who's previously coming from the banking industry. So we're helping organizations structure the financial operations or the funds. And then we can do that for smaller actors or also large organization who wants to create a fund structure. So this is at the level, I would say that this is entrepreneurs, then this is enablers. Then we have a strategy around transparency and data information, because we believe that one of the weakest elements is that we need to have transparency of information into the ecosystem. So we've created the platform Axum in order to allow the interaction, the non-visible interaction between the enablers, the companies, and the investors to be visible, because by making that visible, we also incentivize other stakeholders, other investors from other regions to be able to interact with actors in the ecosystem in Africa. So that's really at the level of the data, the sharing of the information. The last aspect is at the level of the investors. This is something that we're putting in place now. We're creating investor office. So the first investor office will focus on early stage tech-enabled companies in Africa, where we collaborate with all the different investors, organization, fund, angel investors on the continent to develop actually and favor the co-investment, meaning that with this organization, we have the capacity to identify what are all the deals that are happening and give the opportunity to people around the globe to co-invest with actors in the ecosystem that will support that will actually lead the investment, so that it encourages other people to test the ecosystem with other people that are into the ecosystem. So this is what we do. And then next to this, and this structure will make that access also provide all the fund-like services, so identification, transactions, portfolio management, support to the founders, etc. So basically the approach that we have was to create kind of an ecosystem of support, which will address the founders, the enablers, the interaction and transparency, and the access to capital in order to empower the early stage entrepreneurs and allow them to continue the journey, as we believe that those are the actors that will be designing the future Africa by developing new technology, new mobile technology, new infrastructures. In the continent, we definitely need to have those champions being supported to give us, I think, for the future generation, a better outcome. So that's basically what we're doing.
Eric, is it? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, may I? I would just like to, just to complement what Eric was saying, because we've been collaborating for the last year. And Axum is the platform, helping entrepreneurs access funding in Africa that Green Tech Capital has put into the ecosystem last year. And we've been doing a great work in gathering the community and facilitating access to funding and building a community of investors. So that's also another layer to like how we can bridge gaps between organizations like Next Evolution and Green Tech and so on to support African founders access to funding and global investors access African deals.
Yeah, which is actually which makes me think about because when I think about Axum, a lot of people focusing on the technology, but basically Axum, it's a combination of technology to allow communications, but also all ecosystem of knowledge that is made available to the actors of the ecosystem. So actors of the ecosystem can share the information and share the knowledge, and people can also get there to develop themselves. So that's in terms of the communication and transparency, that's part of it. So yeah, thank you, Soumya, for bringing back to my thinking.
Eric,
Yes,
is this
oh,
only
great.
for African countries, and is it for all African countries? That's the question.
Well, I think it's for all African countries. And because we think that in an environment where there is a need for tools of interconnections, of knowledge, of access to capital, etc., it's a problematic that touches every country. So we believe that we cannot develop only part of the continent. And because of what Soumya was mentioning in terms of the different silos, you will notice that some countries gather 90% of the capital when others, like just struggling on 10%. So we think that if we find a way to give access to information, and also because the free trade agreement that has been put in place in Africa, everything goes into a Pan-African dynamic, which needs to have a better sharing of the resources because talents are everywhere. So that's why I would definitely say that it's not specific to certain countries in Africa, but we hope to have an impact in all African countries.
And we have two communities, because there's a Francophone and Anglophone community, in order to cover, because there's really a huge fragmentation because between the Francophone region and the Anglophone region. So we have both communities running.
Great. And by the way, I need to say I'm part of Axom WhatsApp group, and I can salute you for all the activities and the support and the vibrant community on your WhatsApp. I can see there are a lot of, here's Fayo from Axom, just wrote in the chat. Who's from Africa here? Can you please write? I can see many African familiar faces and names, and also some, okay. Sayed Mohun, okay, welcome.
Said is Said Fayo, I can see Iman.
Also Stephen, and good to see you here. I salute you, Eric, and Axom team for all the efforts, and that's a great initiative, connecting all the entrepreneurs and giving them this access to everyone and to the opportunities. Muketsi, are you ready?
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot, Andre. Infrastructure is crazy down here, so you have to be creative about being kicked out at one point. So, well, look, our work is driven by 3 pillars. The first pillar is capital. We realize that a lot of the digital companies we work with are looking for a different type of capital, predominantly not debt, more venture capital and angel investor type of money. So it's very important that our work, or the type of companies that we work with, understand this, and any partner that wants to interact with us immediately has to understand that the financing instrument we would like, or our companies are looking for, is the type of capital that speaks to VC and angel type of money. So the second pillar would be capacity. So we find ourselves running a lot of innovation programs. So for example, we've got innovation startup boot camps that are predominantly focused on topics that a lot of our startups need. For example, just the ability to scale out of a small market like Botswana, valuation, attracting, that type of money that you need. This means that actually connecting to partners like Eric, Axom, working with other people in the continent to broaden yourself, just because you are stuck in that small little country. So we do have a scale-up residency program that we run, which is financed by corporate venture capital. And here I'm talking to corporate banks. So in the past, what we've actually done is partnered with local banks to fund the cohorts for the startups that we have, in order to get them to access to market. So you will realize in these small markets, most startups cannot scale on their own because the population is very small. So you need to pivot the large corporates that exist in the markets in order for you to be able to grow quite exponentially, right? From Botswana to Zambia to Lesotho to South Africa. Then we do have, other initiatives like Connecting the City Challenge, which is a bootcamp that we've done in the past with the World Bank, together with other DFIs, like the GIZ. So what we do with these bootcamps ultimately is just sort of really transfer, the insights around what's happening in the regional ecosystem, or if not in the local ecosystem. And this is predominantly mostly supported by experts from the region or from the ecosystem. And we would leverage the Global Entrepreneurship Network for this because there's already 200 countries. There's content that's created. It's easy to just copy and paste that sort of stuff. So for the last pillar is community. So obviously, when you belong in these small markets like Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, Lesotho, Swaziland, community is very important. So we work strongly with connecting, our startups to media to tell their story. Ultimately, we have other corporate champions like Mudisa, who's on this call, who are sort of have the experience to provide mentor-driven capital to these startups in the form of investing. So that strengthens the type of pool of startups that we have in our network. And mostly, of course, through the micro fund we're trying to launch, Ula Space, we've had to actually launch this out of South Africa because it's easier for people to understand. So if you look at the African continent, it's easier for people to sort of, I think, relate with what they call the big four. So this is South Africa meaning Cape Town, Kenya, Nairobi, Nigeria, Lagos, and then Egypt. But when you speak about small countries, nobody knows what you're talking about, right? So for us in the small markets, we've had to sort of create demo days that sort of attract regional startups to come in and pitch, and they're looking for capital from anywhere, right? And then we pivot, inviting investors from anywhere, right? It could be Eric in Germany, it could be Somea, wherever she's sitting in Algeria. And the idea is that they understand these markets are small and they're looking for really small check sizes. So you'll identify that those startups in those small economies won't be looking for large check sizes in the range of $1 million or so on. So we try to pivot them to understand that the small is good, and then they have follow-on funding going to them in the second phase. So our operational geography as of current now is Botswana, where the accelerator sits, and then it's pivoting partnerships in East Africa through Rwanda. So we have partnerships in Rwanda. So we find that environment is already sort of exciting. So most of our startups are pivoting resources from there. And then ultimately the fund itself is based in South Africa. So when I speak to an investor based in the UK or the US, which is where a lot of money is coming, they would understand me quite faster if I'm saying, well, ultimately the guys will go to South Africa and then scale to the rest of the continent, as opposed to me saying, well, it's Botswana, it's Namibia. Then when the guy looks, it's 2 million people. And then he's like, is this really going to give me market? Is this going to grow exponentially? Yeah, so I think this is sort of the work that we are doing. And it's very exciting because, all these places are nascent ecosystems. They are now setting up startup acts. They're now setting up ministries of entrepreneurship. So everything in this market is quite virgin. And that's the opportunity, I think, for a lot of the startups. And the startups are quite few in these countries and geographies that we operate. But as of now, on Ula Space, for example, we currently have got 250 startups that are looking for capital from anywhere. And the number just keeps increasing every day. So where the struggle or the pain point is the ability to now connect with local capital from angels or venture capitalists that would come in to fund in these markets. So this is the current challenge that we have at the company.
Moketsi, I tell you, it's a very smart strategy, and I like that. So basically, just to make sure I got one thing right, the investors are coming from everywhere, but the startups are coming from Africa, right?
Right. So there
and
is
those
no
who are coming, and those who are coming from Botswana, they are incorporated or incubated in South Africa.
Yeah, so here's how the interesting storyline is. So what we have seen with 2 successful startups that have come out from markets from Botswana that have been able to raise capital is that they've actually had to go and incorporate in either Delaware or Singapore in order for them to raise capital. I mean, we have one cyber security startup from Botswana, founded by a Botswana young guy. He's actually failed to raise locally, and then he's had to go to Singapore. And then while in Singapore, it was easy for him to raise about $6 million for his startup. Now they've expanded that, they're servicing Australian market and so on, but they cannot come back into the market. So we have another startup also in Botswana that's doing agri-tech. What they have had to do is fundraise through Orange Ventures, through what we call corporate venture capital, by partnering with Orange. And then through Orange, they've been able now to get market access to markets like, Cameroon and so on, Ethiopia. And then through that, they've been able to raise, and that making about 30 million pula annually in revenue. But they're failing to get like the $5 million that they want to raise in order for them to now be able to be exponential in the continent. So most of the startups, there is no shortage of startups. What is sort of short right now is the capital. There is not enough capital coming from the angel groups or the VCs in the small markets. Even if you look at the map of the 4 billion or 5 billion that went to startups in Southern Africa, it's just South Africa. You don't have even 1 million going to Botswana or even Namibia. It check sizes in the range of 350K, 250K. You really don't have the data set coming from these small markets. So that's the gap we're trying to sort of, I think, average.
Interesting, thank you. Mokatsi, I did a very quick Google search. You said that Botswana is a small country. So just to let you know that Botswana is 58 times the size of Lebanon, with half the population of Lebanon.
Yeah,
but I want to assure you that we face the same challenges. Access to capital is not easy. That's why many people go to Saudi Arabia or to UAE, Dubai, to get access. And many of our entrepreneurs, they can't also get investors from abroad because our legal structure for companies is not investor appealing. That's why most of them, they incorporate in Delaware, the same as you are doing, or some of them are incorporating, we have also Dubai, we have Estonia, some of them, and UK, also Cyprus, some of the opportunities there. So I can totally understand you because we're facing the same challenges in our communities. Thank you for highlighting that. Before I go with my last question to our guests, if any of you has a question, please write it in the chat box. We will ask it to our speakers later. I will go back to Sumaya. By the way, when Mokatsi said Sumaya, wherever she is in Algeria, I thought like Sumaya, wherever she is in the world. Like now she's in Jordan, before she was in Saudi, before she was in UAE, she was in Paris, and like you rarely see her in Algeria, right? Sumaya, I have a question for all of you, and I will start with you. We're talking about challenges for entrepreneurs in Africa, and we're talking about the opportunities that your entities or organizations are also giving to these entrepreneurs. So I would like to highlight something that we didn't speak about yet, maybe an opportunity or a challenge with an option on how to overcome it.
Can you say that again? A challenge? How to overcome a challenge?
Either an opportunity for the entrepreneurs in Africa that we didn't talk about yet, or a challenge and how to overcome it.
Yeah, I think the first, I will go for the challenge and how to overcome it, because we've been talking a lot about access to capital, and we're all looking for quick fixes, right? Like bring capital and connect it to the companies and so on, where we know that it is structural, and being an emerging economy or developing economy puts us in a category that is harder to like capture money, either legally or structurally. So there's the question of the regulatory hacking, and it is an unpopular conversation to have in this way, but we need to sit and say, okay, what is the best country I can be an entrepreneur in and put my structure in? I'm a lawyer, so I think really like the best legal opportunity to put the company and draw the money, because our countries are complicated, for most of them, and it's not attractive. So if we think short term, the first move to make is not to salvage our ecosystem or nurture it, is to create a viable business that is investor ready and that is able to capture and have the capacity to hold the amount of capital that this business is going to raise. So the question of the regulatory hacking is huge and it's important, and helping the entrepreneurs who don't think like globally like many of us can, just see that even if they don't have the visa or the right passport, and I'm putting it quote unquote, because that's also one of the problems, being stuck with passports that do not allow us to navigate the world, is also a complication. It's like, how can I still access an ecosystem that allows me to capture money while not being able even to travel? Like I'm thinking of the Algerian passport, that is one of the lower in the list actually. And my life completely changed when I had the French passport. So it is a problem that we need to address like openly. It is uncomfortable, but it is structural. And that's one of the, you know, the core questions to have, like, how can we help these entrepreneurs just do a qualitative regulatory hacking, evaluating the cost of doing business and so on, and going through that direction, this direction. The other question, and that's how leadership became such an important conversation in the ecosystem development and community business that I was trying to build at the beginning. We brought leadership and empowerment because talking about money and raising $5 million or euros when you're in a country where the currency is not worth anything and you're not used to this amount of money is a complication. So some people address the money issue in terms of mindset, but it's beyond mindset. We can go through our core beliefs and our worthiness as an individual. So when we do leadership, is like, how are you stepping up your life and leveling up your life and your business and your being? How are you creating or designing a life that you want to build? Because we're not creating businesses for the sake of creating businesses. We're creating businesses for them to serve us, to serve our life, and to serve the world or impact the world in a way that would be fulfilling to us, for most of us at least. So first of all, how do we connect to purpose? How do we show up for the purpose that we want to show up for? But also serving our purpose in a way that is fulfilling to us, where when we look at our lives, we're like, okay, I'm living the shit, right? I'm living the life that I want to live. And that's why I am hustling or working so much or creating these things. So for me, the conversation about entrepreneurship, oftentimes we only address the hustle and the pain, and we forget that we do it why we're doing it. And when we connect it to the why, we can have the money conversation and see the ceilings, how we are not leveling up at some level. What are the point, the conversations we're not having, the people we're not hiring, the stepping up, like the risks we're not taking, all of these things that might seem uncomfortable or feel uncomfortable most of the time, that can become so much easier when you are surrounded by a community going the same direction and really looking for fulfillment and impact and purpose, and also excellence and mastery in the work we do. And when you reunite all of this, it's really like, it's a great recipe, because you can start playing, like the world becomes sort of playground where you're not only for your business, but even the money conversation, like demystifying money and taking it out of the pedestal. So you'll be able to negotiate 5 million or 10 million or have these kind of deals, even if you grow up in an environment where these amounts were not even in the conversation, because that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to bring and channel capital in places where capital is not going right now. It's basically you repattern within yourself as a leader, and then it becomes a community and an ecosystem repatterning, because when money goes in Africa, it's South Africa, Kenya, Egypt, Nigeria, very little capital in the Francophone region. So all the new initiatives and creating community and having these kind of conversation, the main or the most powerful thing we can do is like repattern the circuit or the direction of the capital where it's going. Because when you think in a systems way, because that's how system thinking works really, you see that the current system is just channeling money in these easy places. When you do repatterning and you start doing community building, you make visible stories and opportunities for investment. You make visible quality, you make it visible. And when you do that, you create opportunities. When you do that just through connection, there is more opportunities. It's automatic. So that's actually the way I really want to address the challenge of having the conversation about raising 5 million or 10 million or earning 5 million or 10 million.
Sumaya, thank you for the tip. And I would say this applies to everyone all over the world, not only in Africa, nor in the Middle East. And I remember once I was training an entrepreneur, like one-on-one training for a period of time. And when we started dealing, well, he got a deal of $500,000 and he panicked. He said, "What? $500,000? The most budget I worked on before was like 50, 40, 30, 70 max." When it started becoming like six figures, they panicked. And what you just mentioned about millions also, when I tell people I raised 1 million to an entrepreneur, they say 1 million, oh my God. So millions are nothing when you start actually thinking in terms of scalability, a global mindset, and how to structure your business model and your scaling plan in order to attract such investment. So thank you, Sumaya. Eric, an opportunity for entrepreneurs or a challenge and how to overcome it? You choose.
An opportunity for entrepreneurs. I think that the actual situation in Africa, at least, is it's an opportunity and at the same time a challenge. The reason is because we've seen that last year the valuations, the volume of transaction has reached 5 billion. First quarter for the whole year, fourth quarter we already had 2 billion. In the same time, you see that the first quarter in Europe, in the US, has been a drastic drop in terms of the stock market, which means that one of the questions that everybody is asking today is, are we going to have a negative impact into the African ecosystem due to the overall negative mindset, or are we going to be the light? Are we going to be the positive news? Because despite this challenge, the ecosystem is developing and continuing to grow. I think that it's an opportunity because in Africa, startups address real problem, real challenges with a continent that need infrastructure, that need finance, that need solution, that need technology. So the demand is already there versus the Europe market was challenges to find vector of growth. So in that sense, it's an opportunity, and challenge because due to the percentage of capital allocations that is made globally and that the big players are trying to follow, that the 2% that represent the venture capital globally allocation for Africa, and then if you go then now into tech and technology enabled companies, it's even more smaller, meaning that there's a situation here where it's not really clear. And I think that although we had an increase of valuation into the fintech ecosystems, I think that the other sectors are not over-evaluated. I think that the market is there. I see the multiple that are happening in the continent are way lower than the multiple that you can have in other regions. So I think that the opportunity for the African founders to continue to show performance, to implement good governance. We've seen that recently with the situation with PhotoWave, to be able to show that they can be a quality in terms of of the African companies and the African founders is definitely something where I think that it's worth to put a focus on. It's also, I think, the opportunity to underline the change of narrative in terms of what Africa entrepreneurship should be. Because, you know, globally, when you think about Africa, you think about challenge, you think about hunger, you think about war, you think about conflict, a lot of negative things. But for the African of my generations, which are now like getting closer, unfortunately, to the 50s, we've seen the shift in terms of talent. We've seen the shift in terms of expert going back into the continent, implementing their knowledge and matching it with the cultures. We've seen the opportunity of reducing the technology. So I think that yeah, it's a mix. It's different to say, because for me it's a mix, because in a negative environment, but we have all the macro into our favors. We have a dynamic. We have the need of the technology. We have a booming demographic. So I would say that yeah, I want to see the opportunity despite the challenges that are surrounding the African continent.
Eric, I align a lot, actually our countries align a lot in what's happening in their economy and in their market. And I think I have a question, and it might be similar to our country. Do you see African entrepreneurs going, for example, to establish themselves in Europe or in the US in order for them to attract investors and to scale faster? Because you talked about the multiples, because the multiples in Africa are low?
So I think that I think that there is I will say the question of the where to set up the company is definitely connected to where comes the capital. And I think that definitely founders should, and most of the founders who attract capital have to find an environment where the investor feels that it will be in capacity to get this capital back. Because today the most difficult is not really to invest in Africa. But if you invest in Africa and then you have the companies growing, it's highly probable that in the next 3 to 4 years or 5 years, the company is going to grow, relocate, maybe go into another countries. And the different change of fiscal regime in a different country makes that maybe you invest in a company where you could get your money back. And then at the end, it grows and it goes in other countries. And then you say, hey, I cannot get my money back. So I think that definitely that's why a lot of investors are looking for, you know, environment where they feel that it can be more safe to get the money back. And then I will advise founders to do that, although they have the operation in their own countries. But in the same time, we also see some, so now you have Mauritius, but you know, you have Senegal as right now to position itself as a potential future Mauritius and trying to see if they can implement some favorable regulations for this. You have also Rwanda was also trying to position itself like this. So I think that there is a consciousness from the actors in the ecosystem in Africa about what happened. The only thing is that let's say the venture capital activity is more dynamic in the Anglophone countries, but the Francophone countries are actually the one who provide the best, let's say the best situations, because they are all, most of them are tied to the euro. So, you know, the risk from, the financial risk is written, you read it differently. If you invest, for example, in Senegal, was tied to euro, than in Nigeria, but it's just a market side. So I think that for the moment, the first instinct is to look outside of Africa, but soon people will look also to have headquarters in Africa, in environments that are safe. So I think that this is what I see.
Amazing, and that's what we all look forward to. Great, thank you, Eric. Muketsi, an opportunity in Africa or a challenge and how to overcome it. Which one would you like to choose?
Well, for me, I think the opportunity is to frame what I would call the founder investor fit for small markets or small economies, because I think the fit for the bigger economies has already been figured out. You know, that's why we speak about the big four. So the next opportunity might be in trying to just sort of model how the founder investor fit looks like for small economies, right? Whether if it's to domicile externally or is to actually attract funds that sit in these small markets. The other thing, which I think for me is personally important, is to also zoom in on what the actual opportunity is. I mean, when you look at places like Botswana, where you have diamonds everywhere, right? I mean, the country is very large, but you have diamonds in every corner of the country. So, and the rest of Africa is predominantly just like that. So it's important that the ecosystem looks at creating impact. I mean, we can all be obsessed with technology, software, but the truth of the matter is, when you're in places like Africa, people need to eat. The opportunity is in agriculture, right? So it's important that we sort of leverage technology or software to help really solve practical problems in places like agriculture, bring in smart initiatives like clean tech, energy, which is where everybody's looking at. And obviously also just sort of be excited about things like fintech and everything. But, these are interesting things to hear about, and NFTs and all that. But for me, at the end of the day, we need to point the founders or the innovators to the right space so that, it can attract the impact that we need. So for me, I think this is sort of my message home, that it's exciting. Small is beautiful. Small is scalable. You can talk about Singapore, Estonia. So I think places like Botswana, Rwanda can be great examples of the Singapores or the Estonias of the world. So this would be my message to those that are in this network and that are looking to collaborate and do some interesting stuff in Africa.
Moketsi, I will add one question before we wrap up. You operate mainly in Botswana and Rwanda. I guess you didn't talk much about Rwanda. So can you tell us, because now you mentioned Rwanda can be the next Estonia, and also Eric mentioned Rwanda as the next hub in Africa. So can you mention what are they doing in order to attract entrepreneurs and businesses to their country and economy?
Well, it's all in the leadership. Rwanda has got a superstar leader, right? If you look at what their president is doing, he's actually championing, this innovation, right? Right out of government, all the way to private sector. The mindset, the energy, the passion of the people, the openness to do business, right? So, and yeah, Sumaya is actually right. Even the corruption, zero corruption, zero level toleration for corruption. So, and they're building even the Luxembourg of Africa through their financial center. I met with the team last week when I was there, with a team from Botswana, and everybody was amazed, right? And Rwanda has no resources. It's not like a rich country. I mean, if you compare it to countries like Botswana, which are pretty much wealthy, Botswana is a wealthy country. It's like Switzerland of Africa, no mistake there, right? But you compare the energy, you compare the ability to just try new initiatives, programs, attract capital. So I think any startup that I would talk to in terms of scale, in terms of interesting initiatives, first priority, of course, would tell them Botswana because it's home and it's nice to be here. But the opportunity is really, the business opportunity is really in Rwanda right now, okay? But if Botswana is able to land and turn its diamond into what it should be, we can probably do it. We can pivot and beat South Africa 10 times, okay? Because of the structure we have. It's, you want to come in a small market, it's easier. So, but if you are not agile enough and your regulation is still outdated, pretty much nobody's going to come in and lend their innovation. So resources need to be used appropriately, if you were to ask me. So Rwanda seems to be doing that.
Thank you. Thank you, Moketsi. We promise to finish on time. I will finish with one final word, very brief. If you have any final word to our community and entrepreneurs, Sumaya.
Community. One word?
That's the final word.
You said one final word, community.
You can make it 2-3 words if you want. Create a community.
I believe in the power of connection. And I think if we want to create opportunities for each other in the ecosystem we live in, we need to connect to where opportunity is and bring it home. So yeah,
thank you so much.
Create communities.
Thank you for your time also joining us today. Eric.
I'll say one word, future, because no matter what people can do, the future is Africa for me. So future encapsulates everything.
Lovely. Thank you, Eric, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
I think for me, Botswana on the map, Botswana on the investor map. We need Botswana on the map. Yeah, that's it for me.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Muketsi. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Sumaya. Thank you for your time. And thank you for the amazing value that you shared with our community.
Thank you for inviting us. Have a great one.